Hello and welcome to Top Story. The efforts of Venezuelan President Hugo Chavez to facilitate an exchange of prisoners between the Colombian authorities and the Revolutionary Armed Forces of Colombia, the country's largest and oldest guerrilla force, appear to have suffered another setback. Chavez was to have met representatives of FARC for preparatory talks today in Venezuela, but says now they've been postponed. Why the talks have been postponed and for how long isn't yet clear. Chavez was asked to mediate in the release of the prisoners by Colombian President Álvaro Uribe. FARC holds hundreds of hostages captive, among them Ingrid Betancourt, a former presidential candidate of joint French and Colombian nationality, and 3 Americans held while on an anti-narcotics operation in 2003. FARC says it will only free its hostages in return for the release of rebels held in Colombian prisons and the United States. Chavez has proposed that a prisoner exchange take place in Venezuela, but FARC is insisting that it take place inside Colombia. Well, joining me now to discuss the prospects for a prisoner exchange is Maria Camilla Morales, Paris correspondent of the Colombian newspaper El Tiempo. Thanks very much for being on Top Story. Some suggestion that the problem with today's talks is security or lack of security from the Colombian side. What's going on exactly?
It's a logistical problem. The fact is that for the moment, the ways how the representative from the FARC can travel to Venezuela without the fear of being captured or being killed by the army. So that's the main problem, is a security problem.
It did rather sound at the weekend on Venezuelan television as though Hugo Chavez was getting a little bit impatient with President Uribe.
Yes, he asked him to send him by plane and with coffee and have a drink on the border. But this is a funny part of the thing. But it's really complicated because for the President Uribe there's no ceasefire, so I don't think he will ask the army not to keep the military operation, so the representative from the FARC can fly or can drive or whatever to Venezuela. So it's really difficult for him because it's not only the international parties, what to do with his generals back home. So I don't think it's going to be possible for the moment, postponed for sure.
What Chavez says was, now Uribe, my friend, you have to help me so that they, meaning FARC obviously, make it to the border. He obviously thinks Uribe is not doing enough.
Yes, he thinks Uribe is not doing enough, but everything is changing for the moment, and the change from Uribe is quite big. We have to remember that from the beginning, when 2002, when President Uribe was elected, he was saying no negotiation with the FARC, so we came from really, really far away to this position. So he's changing, and everything is going really, really slowly. And Chavez, his temperament, he really wants things really quick and fast, and I don't think you can play with that, because in the main thing, the hostages, their lives still there, and that's the problem. You have to really protect them. What happened, for example, if one of the representatives from the FARC, Raúl Reyes, number 2, in one operation, military operation, trying to cross the border will die? It will be a really, really big problem. So it's not so easy. You need more time and settle things down, and maybe they will have that meeting in Caracas or in the border.
Many people think it a little bit strange that somebody as right-wing as Uribe and somebody as leftish as Chavez should get together in the first place, and are wondering whether there's an element of a setup in this, wondering whether perhaps the Colombian authorities are setting up Chavez to fail.
I don't think so. Uribe needed a mediator. He had one, his High Commissioner for the Peace, Luis Carlos Restrepo, but he was not respected by the FARC. And the FARC didn't want to talk directly to President Uribe. They said since the beginning, since he was elected. So he needed someone who was respected, both Chavez and both Uribe and the FARC. So he found President Chavez, who had some common ideals and ideological with the FARC. So that's the point. He's trying to find someone and start to talk about and how to get a solution.
But is it in Uribe's long-term interest that Chavez should become even more popular in Latin America?
Not, but they need to find a solution for the hostages. So for the moment, the first step are the hostages. Then we will see what's going to be the future for Chavez. But for the moment, the international pressure is so strong for Uribe that he needs a solution for that, for the hostages. We're talking for hostages, not for the peace process for Colombia.
What about the United States? Do you think the United States is interested in seeing Hugo Chavez having a propaganda coup by getting prisoners released in Colombia?
No, I don't really think so. But the problem is, as well as they have 3 hostages, they are American citizens, and they won't have a solution. But for the moment, it's like Chavez is trying to get a new image and trying to be the peacemaker for the whole region, and I don't think in Washington they are really happy with this new idea.
But unlike Washington, Paris clearly is interested in the success of these talks, and President Sarkozy's personal representative was in Venezuela over the weekend talking to Chavez.
Yes, Daniel Parfait was sent to Caracas last weekend, and yes, they need... President Sarkozy said Ingrid Betancourt is an obsession for France, so the word obsession, everything could be possible. Dealing with Chavez, that at one stage was not a really good friend from France. Now everything is changing, so they need a solution, and for France the priority is freedom for Ingrid, the release from Ingrid Betancourt. That's the priority.
And one of the interesting things about this particular diplomat, Daniel Parfait, is he's married to Astrid Betancourt, who's the sister of Ingrid Betancourt.
Yes, in my opinion, if that happened in Colombia, that would call Banana Republic, all the deals with the family. Here it's called diplomacy. I don't know.
But do you... What concretely can France do to help in this matter, though, if anything at all?
He tried already, and nothing was coming from the FARC. I mean, it was President Sarkozy who asked President Uribe to release Rodrigo Granda, who was captured in Venezuela in 2004. And we were waiting something back from the FARC, and for the moment, the only thing we received back from the FARC were the bodies from 11 regional deputies who were killed where they were hostage by the FARC. So that's the result for the liberation, the freedom from Rodrigo Granda.
And Hugo Chavez is also coming to Paris quite soon as well. So it's clear that the French, although they're getting much more friendly with the United States, are sending a signal too that they intend to play quite an independent policy, at least in Latin America.
Yes, it could be the beginning of international policy for France in Latin America. And Latin America was completely it was not a priority for the French diplomacy, so maybe it will be the first step for France to receive Hugo Chavez and begin a new relationship with the continent.
And was it President Sarkozy who put the pressure on President Uribe, do you think?
Yes, they met 1 week ago in the UN in New York, and they told me during the meeting they were really, really tough and saying, I need results.
Okay, that's all we have time for today. Thanks to Maria Camilla Morales of the El Tiempo newspaper. Join us again tomorrow for another edition of Top Story. Goodbye for now. Thanks very much.